For the record, the work session in Annapolis City Council on Thursday, July 20th will be called to order at 3:07. Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the first item, only item today is ID 11523, Polco National Research Center. Presenter, Senior Account Executive, Mr. James Windisch.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Can I get a thumbs up that everybody can hear me okay? All right, great. So I'm going to take a few minutes to present on the National Community Survey. So I've been in contact with Vicki in the office, just learning a little bit more about what the process was internally to try and get resident feedback on a number of issues. So I'm going to share my screen here and start with some slides, and then I'll move over to our actual platform where we'll be conducting and implementing the survey. We can take it from there. Right, can I get a thumbs up on the slides? Can everybody see the slides okay? All right, great, thank you. So I will try and speak as concisely and clearly as possible. Please feel free to let me know if you have any questions during the course of the presentation. But POLCO is short for Policy Confluence. POLCO as an organization has been around for about 7 years. However, we're really known for the research work that we do with community surveys. So back in 2019, we acquired the National Research Center, and NRC is really known for community surveys and surveys in general. So POLCO is all about helping build smarter, better connected communities through the use of resident and business feedback. So the National Research Center has been conducting community surveys for roughly 30 years or so. And essentially what we've done is we've brought on all their brilliant data scientists, all the survey scientists that have come with that 30 years of experience to help leaders gather insights from the residents and businesses they can rely on. So building trust with stakeholders on important issues has been critical throughout the country and in your communities. And again, our team is set up to help do that through these scientific assessment surveys. So we really have enhanced the technology to go about doing this. So I'll show you high level what we do as an organization and really zero in on the National Community Survey here momentarily. So POLCO is an online community engagement platform that offers a suite of services. The National Community Survey falls in within our assessment module. So we've got these scientific surveys created by our survey scientists to get feedback on a number of topics. The National Community Survey really focuses on quality of life. I'll dive into that momentarily. Within the platform, you're also going to see and have access to our Engage module. Oftentimes, communities that invest or make an investment in the National Community Survey want to dig deeper into issues. So the engagement module is included with the actual investment in the NCS. And this gives you the ability on an unlimited basis to do polling and surveying to get feedback after you've determined what is important to the residents and businesses in the community. Maybe some issues are contentious or have come up to the top of the heap during the assessment process. And we can go back since we've built what we call a digital panel of residents. And then again, we have a track module that gives you the ability to look at public and private data sets. So things like the American Community Survey, FBI crime statistics. So we can take all this outer line information and connect it to your community, then compare it to the assessment that your residents gave you. The National Community Survey also gives you the ability to benchmark your information and your citizen and resident input against like communities, not only in your area, in the state, in the county, but throughout the country as well. This is just a quick snapshot of some communities that we work with all over the United States. We're actively working with about 500 communities at any given time, giving them feedback on a number of issues. We have worked with Montgomery County on a number of topics, specifically quality of life surveying as well, but community health issues and a number of topics. And again, what we're seeing as an increase over the course of the past couple of years post-pandemic is community leaders really want to get a strong pulse on the community. So whether or not that's for strategic, master planning, comprehensive planning, what's the current state of things? They have an idea and a vision of where they want the future state to be, but where we really come into play is to help with that gap analysis. What do residents and businesses really think and feel at this point in time? And how can we take that feedback to help drive policies and programs that benefit everybody in the community? Very quickly, with the National Community Survey, we're going to do that in 3 ways. With content, we have the professionally developed survey, again, iterated on a regular basis by our survey scientists. That is the foundational core of the feedback that we're going to be getting. You have the ability to customize, say, half a page or a page of questions, or you can go and use the engagement platform after the fact to do more polling and surveying after. But we have the content there. Each one of our clients is assigned a customer success manager like myself or one of my teammates. And we've got a project manager who is a professional survey scientist. So you'll have access to a team that will support you during the course of our relationship. So all the content development is there. The administration component is where we're going to implement the outreach process, the implementation of the survey. We've got a best practices roadmap, and then we'll do things like making sure that you fully understand the scientific sample, what process we're taking for notifying citizens about the survey. And then after the survey is closed, we're going to do all the analysis. So we'll produce all the reports, all the benchmarking information, all the highlights. We'll give you a PDF presentation. We'll give you the CSV files so you can look at the raw data as well if you want to. And then you'll have access to one of our survey scientists or one of our executives who can walk you through what the data means. So again, content administration and analytics is really where we come in to help save organizations like yours time, efficiencies, cost, and then to have the experience to help understand what those inputs mean. Very quickly, we're going to be focusing on the NCS, but we do have a whole host of other scientific assessment surveys. I won't focus on these at all, but because we are working in so many communities across the country, counties, cities, villages, etc., we're seeing a whole host of issues pop up, everything from assessing older adults 55 and older as the macroeconomic situation is changing. What can we do to make their quality of life better? To the business community, what does it take to help maintain and retain a good quality of life for employees who want to work and live in the same community? And then law enforcement. Do public and private policies match what the city wants, the city policies and programs, and does it reflect what is happening in the actual community from the residents' point of view? So with the National Community Survey, we're really focused on these 10 facets of livability. And I won't read these off verbatim, but what we see as a trend nationwide is that communities contact us about the NCS, or the National Community Survey, to help evaluate services, to enhance communication that offers citizens anonymity and confidentiality at the same time so they'll feel comfortable giving their opinions. It helps measure quality of life, hands down. So we're looking at these 10 facets of livability for quality of life. It helps monitor performance. So maybe you have a parks and recreation or a library services project, maybe even a TIF district. How do residents feel about the progress that was made there? It helps inform budgeting by identifying priorities within the community via the residents and businesses. And we're often brought in to help with the strategic planning process to get a baseline on where we feel the residents are at, what we need to do to again help shape policies and programs. It helps build trust. Oftentimes community members will take a survey or a poll and their information goes off into the ether and they never see it again. We're going to give you the ability with our technology to share that information and what that feedback looks like. And then it helps with planning and capital investments. So whether or not that's, again, health and wellness, education, arts and culture, maybe there's programs or things that citizens want to see as part of their community. Maybe that helps with community design and walkability. But again, focusing on these 10 facets of livability, we want to help you measure the quality of life. Very quickly, to explain the outreach process for the National Community Survey, we've got a multi-fold step here. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to sit down with Vicki and team to identify a standard scientific sample of the community. So looking at your population and populations, your sizes, maybe that's 3,000 households, maybe that's 5,000 households. What we're going to do is we're going to pull a random scientific sample of the community by looking at single-family homes, multi-unit housing, apartments, condos, you name it. And then we're going to go from census block to census block or whatever geocoding we need to do to make sure that we've got a good sample in front of you by looking at U.S. Post Office listings, voter registration polls, and then we're going to get that sample, have you approve it. Once that sample is approved, we're going to do what we call multi-mode outreach. So whether or not we want Spanish language interpretation or other languages added, what we're going to do within that scientific sample is round one, everybody in that sample is going to get a postcard driving them to the Polko platform to take the National Community Survey. About a week later, everybody in that scientific sample is going to get a paper copy if they choose not to do it online. So they have the ability to fill out the paper survey, return it back to us in a self-addressed stamped envelope, and then we can process it that way. That is the closed scientific sample, say 3,000 households. Once we've got that portion of the survey done, we know that neighbors are going to talk. Maybe your neighbor next door didn't get an invite and they want to participate. Then we're going to open up the survey to everybody in the community with an open URL. So essentially what's going to happen is you're going to have two data sets, everybody who's taken the survey and then the scientific sample. It is highly likely that they're going to fall in line and have the same sentiment, but in the rare instances that they're not, we can separate the open component from the scientific sample and then have all that data available to analyze and evaluate for you and with you. I wanted to show you on this screen what the actual mobile version of this survey would look like. We have really three things and functions that we want to accomplish. Is we want to make sure that it's easy to use, meaning that our survey questions are going to be built in the right way with the right language for the biggest predictive punch at a 5th to 6th grade reading level. So we really want to make sure that all citizens have the ability in their language and at their reading level to really understand what they're being asked. And then we want these to be clean and easy to understand and intuitive. So the process is really free flowing. And I wanted to pull up this mobile version. And again, I'll show you what it looks like momentarily on our platform of how clean and simple it is. So again, it's going to be easy to use. There's not a lot of sexy flash in the background. We want to get to the point and make sure we can get you some data that's usable. Moving on from here, I really just wanted to point out before I hop over to the physical platform is what we're seeing not only from, say, Montgomery County in Maryland to communities your size all over the country is using data to help in the strategic and in the planning process in general. What we've learned is building better connected communities brings perspectives to the actual governing process and engagement process, and it oftentimes inspires positive change within the community. This is different from social media in a number of ways. Number one, because you're working with a third party like Polko, we're going to offer citizens anonymity and confidentiality. So even though we're going to know where they are and who they are, we're not going to share that information with the city. Even if there's a Freedom of Information Act request, because we're a third party, we've never run into that. So it gives the residents and businesses really confidence that they can trust the process. And then when I show you how we share results online, you'll be able to see what the citizens can see if you choose to share it with them. Now, before I pop over to the actual platform, do we have any questions on what I've presented so far? Or should we wait for the end?
Alderman Annette?
Yes, several. So,
Ross?
yeah, let me get my microphone on. So you conducted a survey for us in 2012. Have you seen that work?
I'll be very frank with you. It's in our archive, so I personally have not been able to review anything that's older than 7 years old. But if you wish for me to go back to our team and pull that up and maybe do a comparison
I just wanted to. It would be nice if we did this, that we're going to have some baseline for comparison. That's more than a 10-year interval, so it would be good to see what, if anything, has changed. And in fact, it might even be good to see that nothing has changed. But I wanted to know if you were aware of that. I'm familiar with NORC and Westat. In fact, I had them under contracts for some national surveys. How do you compare? You've been around for 30 years at least. How do you compare in size to those national organizations?
Sure, I'll be very frank about my answer. So our organization roughly is about 85 of us. We've got our corporate headquarters office in Middleton, Wisconsin, which is a suburb of Madison. That's where I'm located. And then we've got the National Research Center headquarters office in Boulder, Colorado. Each one of those offices house our executives. So we've got our Director of Operations and Survey Science out in Colorado, our CEO and founder out in Middleton. And then the rest of us are essentially remote. So we live and work in the communities that we represent. And because we're smaller, we have the ability to be flexible and nimble to the needs of our clients. For example, we've worked with Montgomery County here over the course of the past handful of years. And I think that they would very positively say that we're super responsive to their needs. So we are a growing organization as we're seeing needs for engagement all over the country just explode kind of post-pandemic for leadership teams like yourself to really get a strong understanding of how they can involve their constituents and residents. But again, I feel very happy that I'm representing an organization that's based in the United States. It was founded by 2 Air Force officers who are still active in the Air Force Reserves. They both teach at the Air Force Academy. And then myself and several teammates of mine are veterans and home-based here within the United States. And again, the fact that we can go to local regions, East Coast is my territory. I handle a lot of the Midwest as well. We feel really good about being in communities that we can represent. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does. One last question / comment. You mentioned several times in your presentation so far, quality of life, which is music to my ears. Another thing that we hear often from our constituents is community character. Those are hard things to quantify, and in fact, our boards and commissions tend to skirt them. But I'm hoping that with this survey, we're going to be able to reflect things like quality of life and community character. We have a small community. It's 40,000. It's a small town, but it's one that people really like. However, it's also one that's under a lot of pressure to grow and expand, and those things, I think, will have some impact on quality of life and community character. So when we get going, that's certainly going to be one of the things that I'm going to be looking for in this survey effort.
Absolutely, Alderman.
Fair warning.
Alderman Savage?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And if you're going to get to these questions, let me know. I'll wait. But to my colleague's point, could you explain the process that you go through to... Sorry, we're getting feedback. Yeah, this is off. Could you explain the process you go through as far as putting together and determining the questions, and in particular, what's the process you go through as far as working with and communicating with the elected body?
And if you want to, these are general questions at the end, we can leave them for the end, or if they're specific, what would you prefer?
I can answer that one very specifically because it's got a quick answer. So because we're going to take your results and benchmark you to 500 other communities so you can really see where you stand in comparison to communities with similar demographics in the region and then nationwide, we have a set foundational amount of questions. So the questions are set. And I can share the exact questions with Vicki. I know I've given her a couple of samples as well, but I can share that with the team after the call as well. The National Community Survey questions are set. We iterate them on a regular basis, annually or semi-annually if we need to, based on community needs, but they are foundational, and that gives us the ability to benchmark. However, I'll show you on the platform here momentarily, you do have the ability to customize, say, half a page or a page of questions specific to your community. And then what we've learned, and this may address the previous Alderman's question, because quality of life is so important, we don't just stop at the survey. Before the acquisition of NRC, the National Community Survey would be a one-time thing. We would do the survey, give you the results, present the results, and then 2 or 3 years down the line, you would engage the public again to see how your baseline is doing and look at trend lines. What is included now, and where Polko comes into play as our parent company, is we're going to conduct the National Community Survey on the digital platform, and then you have the ability for 2 more years with the investment, which is included in the National Community Survey, to use the online engagement platform to go back for follow-up. So if you need to put out another poll or another survey on a specific topic, that's already in the investment with the NCS. And hopefully that answers your question. Foundational set, you can customize, and then you can use the platform for more.
Thank you.
Yeah, now I'm going to move over to the actual platform now. So, included in the NCS, again, is the digital online Polka platform. We're going to brand this to your organization. So, essentially, when we're driving people to the platform, we know that about 80% of our respondents or so are going to answer on a mobile connected device, a laptop, an iPhone, something that's connected to the internet. The other 20% or so are going to take the paper copy, maybe fill out a copy at the senior center or mail it in to us. So again, we do have both of those digital and paper options. We don't do any calling and we don't do any door knocking. We've learned that there is very little to almost zero return on investment for the latter two, so no calls, no door knocking. As you approach the National Community Survey, we'll likely be working with Vicki as our main point of contact or somebody else. We give you the ability, and up to 10 administrators, it could be representative on the council, etc., to have access to the platform. So with the NCS, we're going to showcase all your results. So during the course of time, you're going to be able to see, and again, this is a demo site, when responses are coming in. So because we're going to be assigning you a customer success manager and a project manager, if we see that there's low engagement, say during the course of any time of the survey, we know, hey, let's put out another press release, or let's put out another post on Facebook or on the website. So we're going to walk you through the best practices because we've been doing this so much, but you're going to be able to see during the course of the survey when responses are coming in. You're also going to be seeing on a geocoded map. We can either work by census block, police jurisdictions, library districts, parks districts, however you want to segment the community, where the responses are coming from. So this is just a demo of Madison, Wisconsin. What we've learned with this community is we see a lot of responses, say, from the outer line subdivisions or single-family homes within the area, but we need more interaction within the inner downtown area. So the geocoding tied into the actual responses, we're going to be able to see when responses are coming in and where within the community they're coming from. There's also another great aspect to this. It's what we call verified responses. So we're not going to force people to give their demographic information and identify who they are, but if they feel comfortable, what we're going to do is when Johnny Bravo on Main Street, Annapolis says, this is who I am, we're going to verify that individual against voter registration polls and post office listings. So you're really going to be getting 3 types of entries. The full anonymous open component, the scientific sample, and among both of those, verified residents of the community. And then amongst the geocoded mapping, we're going to be taking demographic information when people give it to us and displaying it for you and your team. What we often see is that, as an example, 35 and below are oftentimes the individuals will say, hey, we're not being heard, our voices aren't being representative in this specific project, etc. But they oftentimes don't ante up and show up for the civic engagement process. We know that the demographic 35 to 44 often shows up tremendously because they're new and upcoming families. And we know that often single family homeowners, 55 and above, often Caucasian, are going to show up to the plate. So when we show this information internally with the city and then externally to the public, it really starts to create a circle of trust. This is the tools that you guys asked us for in terms of feedback. Here are your answers, and here are your neighbors and a representative sample of the individuals who responded. Race, ethnicity, gender, you name it, we can help you broadcast that and show that, and again, share it with the community. But this is going to give you a strong indication of who within your community is engaged in this process. So from the results standpoint, we've got a couple of different views. You can see very basically everybody who responded to your questions, registered voters who we've been able to identify, registered voters who are part of the city, and then individuals who have subscribed to Polko for the city of Indianapolis so they can be notified of any polls or surveys coming up. So you're going to be able to see responses from every question by survey, and in the advanced results, you're going to be able to see from question to question where the responses came from, what the actual responses were, who were verified users, if that Polko could verify in the background, and then a demographic breakdown of who actually answered the questions. So we're going to be able to show you, again, cross tabulations of who answered, where they answered from, what their demographics look like, and then, again, a geolocation by census block or area that we've predetermined for question. So you're going to have, go ahead.
James, I just wanted to break in because I think, to me, it felt like it got glossed over. The fundamental results of the survey are actually weighted. So what he's showing you right now is the crosstabs where you can see like raw numbers of responses, but when the report itself comes out, the fundamental report is actually weighted so that regardless of to correct for any mismatch between the profile of the respondents and the profile of the community. So the intent is to have those results weighted so that the results are reflective of the community writ large. Is that fair, James?
That is 100% accurate, and thank you very much. You beat me to the gun there, but that is completely correct. And then within these results, we're going to be able to show you how you stand and how these answers compare to the actual benchmark. So as we look at this specific section as an example, we're going to see your ratings from your residents and then how they compare against, again, those regional and national benchmarks. So you're really going to get a strong understanding with that automatic weighting put into place where you stand from an overall standpoint within the residents and within the community and how that compares to the county and then the region, and then you can make decisions based on that. So you're going to have the ability to download PDF reports, CSV files, and then because the data lives on the platform for the duration of our relationship, whether or not that's 2 years or 3 years or whatever that looks like, you have access to that data online. Now, included with the National Community Survey is our Engage module. Because the data lives online and you've built what we call a digital panel of residents, what we want you to be able to do is utilize that investment to stay engaged with the community. So bear with me here, I'm in my basement connection. So what we want to do over the course of time with you, if you choose to implement this, even though you have access to it, we want you to build a digital panel of residents or subscribers who will come back to you and ask for notification. You're going to be able to see an accumulation of the responses, where your responses are coming from within your community, and then what those demographic and cross-tabulation breakdowns look like. So for example, you have the ability to have polling and surveying on an unlimited basis. I'm just going to pull up one example. We can turn on automatic weighting for any one of these polls or surveys. So again, after we get the results from the National Community Survey, to stay engaged with the audience you've just built, we can do things per project basis. Monthly, we have some communities who will put a poll or survey link in their monthly newsletter or put a poll or survey link on their Facebook page. Or again, per project basis, we can add images, descriptions. We'll coach you through the entire process. We'll train your team on how to do this. And then you can stay engaged with that same quality feedback like the NCS for any one of these engagement modules. So whether, again, it's as simple as holiday lights on Main Street during Christmas season, to tax incremental financing district questions, to parks and recs or library services questions, you have access to the actual library. So when I say library, what we've done, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel, is you can go to about 120 or so scientifically curated surveys and polls that we've developed with our survey science team and see if what we have would suit your need. We've seen inclusion, as an example, be a big topic nationwide. We have a diversity, equity, inclusion survey that's been put together by a survey science team. We see that 42 cities around the country have utilized this. So you can use these Library polls and surveys foundationally. You can pick and pull questions as you need to or just use them as an example. But this isn't all in support of the National Community Survey. So we're going to give you the ability to utilize our team to implement the survey, gather all the data, represent the data in reports and presentations from our team, see the data online, and then follow up subsequently with information or polls and surveys that you think would be relevant. Any questions so far?
Yes, but we'll wait.
I think we could leave them for the end. I'm going to ask you for some comparable jurisdictions and things like that. So we can leave that till the end.
No problem. So I'm going to move on to the user interface. So I just wanted to show you a blown up version, and this is my personal account with Polko, and this is what you would see on a mobile version. So I pulled up Montgomery County here because we've worked with them on their community survey as well. As you can see in this specific example, that they've got some foreign languages for their surveys, but if I pull up their last community survey, I'm not going to show you their specific results, but I just wanted to show you ease of use here. The resident and user interface, again, is simple. It's simplified to be at a 5th to 6th grade reading level. We're asking the right questions with the simplest words for the biggest predictive punch. So it's very clean and easy to use. As an example, I've subscribed to some other communities within Dane County, Wisconsin, where I'm at Madison. I just wanted to show you an example of a quick poll that you can solicit information on. So I subscribe to the Wisconsin Newspaper Association. They often put out simple polls and surveys on hot topics. This one was with gas prices. So just like the National Community Survey, I'm going to be able to see how many of my neighbors and colleagues actually answered this poll or survey. And then I can view the results. So I know that my answers just didn't go off into Never Never Land. I can come back to the platform and see what happened. So I can see the results of this poll from my neighbors and colleagues. The administrators with your team will have the ability to filter out any nasty grams if you don't want to share them. And then you can see what the sentiment was on that specific topic. So clean, easy to use, easy to understand user interface. And again, tying back into the actual platform, we're going to give you the ability to go through the process of viewing all your data online in one simple way. It's essentially one-stop shop. So you have, for lack of a better term, one neck to choke. The data is going to live in one place, and your teams have access to it during the course of our relationship. So that's what I wanted to show you in terms of the NCS today. What questions can I answer for you now?
Is there questions now? Yeah. Alderman Annette?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So again, I would strongly recommend you look at the product that you delivered to us in 2012. I was just pointing out to one of my colleagues, the topics in that, starting on page 7 of that report, which gives the overall community rating, but then the topics just go down the line of the issues that we're grappling with. The first one is transportation. The next one is housing, which I think are cohorts with each other. And it goes through one after another like that. Economic stability, police, those sorts of things, public safety. I don't know whether Sheila got on and can hear us, but Alderwoman Finlayson was pushing for this survey about 3 budgets ago. And what we had set up in 2012 before a change in administration was a dashboard where not only could we see it, but the citizens can see it, and we want the citizens, because even though we're a community that has some strong resources, sooner or later we are going to be forced to make some choices about services. And one of the reasons why Alderwoman Finlayson wanted this is because she wanted to know what the residents were feeling the choices were that we make. We're obviously representing them. So I think that the reason this appeals to me so much is that it really does address issues that we have to deal with all the time. But this dashboard notion I think we want to make that available to everyone who chooses to look at it so that they can see the kinds of trade-offs that we have to think about. Recreation versus transportation, all of those different kinds of things, but that being able to compare us to the other 500 communities is also a huge resource. And so that leads to my question after that long diatribe. The community ratings that on this report from 2012 is on page 7. Is that how our community looks compared to the aggregate of the 500 communities in the survey? Or do we get any kind of comparators like that?
That is a correct assumption. So that is an aggregate comparison. What we can do with some customized benchmarking is look at regional organizations first, organizations or cities, counties, villages, et cetera, that we've worked with in the immediate area. So again, using Montgomery County as an example, we can do some benchmarking comparison to them. We've got quite a few clients in the DC metro area, a handful in Pennsylvania. So what we do really in that approach is we're going to start to look at benchmarking in the region first, and then pull in benchmarking to that pool of 500 communities as well. So if you would like to do a more regional customized benchmarking, we can look at that as well.
Thank you.
Joyce, Omega?
I'm not sure if you already discussed it quickly. This draft looks great. My question though, can you maybe touch on what are, some innovative ways that the marketing and outreach will help with our, us making sure that low income communities are able to take advantage of this and, actively participate?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm going to give you a very realistic and transparent answer. It is rough. What we do after, from working with communities all over the country is we have a very strong understanding that we want everybody involved in the civic engagement process. Where communities, leadership teams, organizations like Polko struggle is low income and underrepresented community members, be it minority, be it single mothers. They have other priorities. So what we do during the course of our messaging with your team, as we've got some templates for press releases, best practices, we really focus our messaging on the benefits and the why. So the reason why, as an example, I work with a college town, Carbondale, Illinois. University of Illinois there, Fighting Illini, some great schools in the area. But outside of the college market, they have a very socially and economically depressed population. And they didn't participate in the civic engagement process at all. They brought us in to help with that. So what we did in our messaging was really help them understand as residents and citizens is that if you give us your real feedback on why we think we should have, say, bus routes in this area, or why walkability scores are meaningless to you, and you would use the parks if they would clean or that type of thing, they really started to see that their input could help shape investments into the future that would increase their quality of life. So everything from transportation routes to actual sentiment on public safety, do public safety policies from the executive team and from the chief of police match resident sentiment? And if those policies are different, we need to know why that is and what your sentiment is on that. So talking about the benefits and the why the executive team is doing this, the council is doing this, can be extremely helpful. And then the last point I'll make about that is leadership buy-in is very important. So it's going to be asking individuals like you to put in a little bit of elbow grease to talk to the community. Well, maybe it's community organizations, maybe it's church groups, volunteer groups, whatever that is, why this information is important for the council, for your team, for the administrators, and then for the city in general. So we've got some best practices that we'll share with the team during the onboarding process. And then I can share also, I'll get Vicki some examples of some press releases and some benefits to get you as well. Long answer. I appreciate you bearing with that.
And the other thing, just for your benefit, talked about a little bit earlier, is that there's actually sort of two surveys. There's a scientific sample of people that are specifically targeted to receive, they'll get a postcard, and then a week later, they actually get a paper copy in it with a self-addressed stamped envelope. So some of what he had talked about the kind of pre-work is also just, if you get one of those, please respond. After that, then there's an open period where anybody can respond. And again, general outreach, we still want everyone to respond, but in some sense, there's a little bit of difference there. And part of the point, in some ways, of doing that is to set up a sample on the front end that really is representative of the community, so that you're starting from a position of having reached broadly. And then that's where, like, council members and stuff like that can really make a difference in making sure that people understand, we really do want to hear from you. If you get one of these, please respond. There will be a chance for everyone to respond, that kind of thing.
So in the beginning, I'm sorry, I missed that.
Great, thank you.
I missed that point, I'm sorry. So the smaller sample, and I'm guessing it'll be like a couple thousand, it won't be hundreds. So that'll be a trial first, and then they'll do.
3,000 to 5,000. Yeah.
Okay, and then a larger, awesome, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Great explanation. Appreciate that.
I would just want to ask a few questions just to sample cities that are similar population, like a Burlington, cities like that, has a similar population to Annapolis. Where else are you in the country? Will all the wards be represented? So we have 8 wards in this city, and we only hear really from 3 of them. And so, a lot of policy gets driven by the loudest people that show up. And so sometimes it isn't always a true representation of the entire city. It just represents the needs of some wards. So how do you overcome that?
Yes.
And the third thing I wanted to ask is, when we customize it, I'm sure all the council want to be part of that customization piece, so we all feel, our constituents are represented in the surveys.
Yeah, so in regards to the question about wards, what we're going to do in the sampling process is our survey science and our data science team will look at the total census information for the community, and then we'll work within each section of the city, each ward of the city, to make sure we've got a significant sample pull from them, or an equal sample. So, and then we'll put that in front of your team for approval to make sure that you agree it represents the city. But again, what Vicki was saying about the actual open component, there's going to be a driving factor there as well. But our goal is to get you a strong representative sample. So we'll look at those wards with you, and again, get your thumbs up on it. In terms of comparable cities, we've got quite a few in the area. I'll send a list that can be forwarded on. In terms of just looking at my map, looking at communities in Frederick County, Maryland, Montgomery County, obviously. A close one I see here is Gaithersburg. We've worked a little bit over in Loudoun County in Virginia, Alexandria, Fairfax County, Stafford County. So quite a few in Virginia. And then up in Pennsylvania, I'm looking at some work right now with Lower Paxton Township. So I'll get you a list of what that looks like within your area here within the next day or so and get that forwarded on. And go ahead.
One other thing I wanted to add, when earlier he was showing the crosstabs where you could see results, one of the crosstabs, I believe, and James, please confirm that this is true.
Sure.
I believe one of the crosstabs we would have access to is actually what are the different responses by ward, so that you'd be able to see the difference between how do Ward 1, 2, 3 through 8, how did they respond differently to those questions? Is that true, James? We'd have that as a crosstab?
That is 100% accurate. And during the course of the actual live survey, we're going to be able to see where responses are coming in from. So if we have a ton of responses, as an example, from Ward 1 and none from Ward 8, our survey science and project management team is going to come back to the project team here at Annapolis and say, we need to do more outreach for this specific population, or we don't have enough responses from this part of the city. We can take it in a couple of different ways. We've got extensive experience with complex weighting schemes required to target specific geographic areas, but we would prefer to do more outreach to get more people to ante up and participate. So we're going to be able to see in real time where responses are coming from.
Thank you. And then on the customization piece, that's a city council process.
Yeah, sure. So we've got the set foundational survey, that 4 pages of questions or so, and I'll send again those questions off to Vicki here after the call. We have got that, and then you have the ability to customize half a page or a page of questions, and you'll work with our survey science team during that process. It's essentially an interview process. We'll help you shape the questions based on the topics you want to cover. And then, again, because you have access to the engagement platform, you can save a little bit of investment by using the platform after the fact instead of paying for that customization. That's part of the initial package, or we can do both. So we'll be there to support you with shaping those questions and what that looks like.
Thank you. Alderman Arnett, then Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Couple of different observations. It seems to me like it would be ideal to be doing this longitudinally, a series so that we can measure change. And so I hope that's in the plans. Also, it seems to me we really should have done this 3 years ago when we budgeted it, because it would have been perfect input for our current comprehensive plan work. But having said that, my question is, when do we get started? And how long will it take?
Sure. The process is approximately 16 weeks. And so 4 months. What we'll do is we'll onboard the project team. We'll get the scientific sample created. We'll get your approval on that. We'll get your approval on all the customized questions. And that's about a 4-week process or so. We leave the scientific sample component of the survey open for about 5 or 6 weeks. We leave it open that long because we know it takes time for people to react to it. So they're going to talk to their neighbors, they're going to talk at the bubbler at work, that type of thing. And then once that scientific sample is closed on that kind of 2.5 month marker, we have the open sample. And that we're going to leave open for anywhere from 10 days to 2 weeks. So, and then it's going to take us about a month or so to do the analysis, create the report. So 4 solid months, we can get you that information. But as soon as Vicki and team are ready to roll, because she's got some strong experience in this process, we can make things happen very, very quickly.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. And we may be able to get this then in time for when the comp plan draft comes to the city council. Right, well, that's another discussion, but I think we definitely need to be able to fold in community character, quality of life, and then the questions that Alderman Gay asked, like inclusiveness and those sorts of things, because I think that can be made more robust in the current draft of our comp plan. But thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Savage. Oh, that was it? Okay. Thank you. And more to that, or just... Well, sounds like an exciting tool. We wish we would have had you 3 months ago, and we wish we would have followed up on that survey. We definitely dropped the ball 3 years ago. We have a lot of constituents wondering if it's going to be cost effective to amalgamate services with the county. I don't believe so, but a survey would have helped us on that. So we're looking forward to customizing some of those questions into your platform, and it looks amazing, so thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for the time and opportunity. I appreciate the chance to speak with you today. And then, Vicki, I'll circle back with some more content here momentarily.
Yep.
Great. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you.
And we do have the POCO's cost proposal. We had shared that at the time that we got it, so we'll do some follow-up around that.
Great. All right, speed meeting, nice. Anything else for good order?
I move to adjourn.
Thank you, meeting adjourned.